I recorded my wife cheating on me, and I can't stop watching it. Hello Reddit, eyes plus here. A couple of weeks ago, I decided to surprise my wife with a kid-free night out. My parents live about an hour and a half away, so I arranged for the kids to stay with them for the weekend. Usually when I visit my parents, I'm gone until later in the evening, but this time I planned to drop the kids off and immediately head back home to surprise my wife. I had made reservations at a nice restaurant and hoped we could go out for a few drinks beforehand. I left at 8:30 and was back in our neighborhood before 12:30. As I pulled onto our street, I noticed an unfamiliar truck parked in front of our house. I assumed it belonged to someone visiting our neighbors since it's not unusual for cars to be parked there. I parked a few houses away, intending to sneak into the house and surprise my wife, rather than pulling into the driveway and going through the garage. Entering through the basement door, I moved as quietly as possible, but as soon as I stepped inside, I heard sounds coming from the floor above. At first, I thought she was alone, perhaps having some personal time. Not wanting to embarrass her, I planned to return to my car and enter through the garage to signal my arrival. Then, I heard a man's voice. My heart pounded in my chest, and I felt sick. Words can't fully describe how I felt in that moment. Deciding to go upstairs, I had no desire to confront them. I just wanted to see what was happening. Moving slowly and quietly, I crept up the stairs. The door was halfway open. The kitchen was empty, but I could tell they were in the living room. The sounds left no doubt about what was going on. There was no way for me to peek into the living room without being seen. So I pulled out my phone and opened the camera app, holding it just around the corner of the wall. Seeing my wife with a man I didn't recognize, I started recording. I needed a record for whatever I decided to do next. I stood there, watching it all unfold on my phone screen, frozen in place, my emotions a whirlwind. After several minutes, she jumped off him, mentioning going to the bedroom and how much time they had left. They went upstairs. I walked into the living room and found the guy's pants, taking pictures of his driver's license from his wallet. Now, I knew his name and address, though I had never met him, or knew how my wife did. Leaving the house the same way I entered, I went back to my car and broke down in tears. I watched the video to ensure it recorded. Sitting in my car for at least half an hour, I couldn't return to my parents for the kids. I would have to explain why. I decided to pull into the driveway, open the garage, and pretend I was there to surprise her. Making a lot of noise as I entered, I found her flustered, asking why I was home early. She was in a robe, claiming she was preparing for a bath. I told her about my plans, and she seemed excited, pouring us both a glass of wine to pre-game. I didn't talk much. She led me into the living room. I could faintly see the guy sneaking downstairs and heading to the basement stairs, but I said nothing and let my wife continue what she was doing to me. Since that day, I've watched the video of her repeatedly, unable to decide what to do next. She seems to sense something is wrong, asking if I'm okay. I feel worthless, hitting low points, and watching the video at least 10 times a day. I stopped watching it after reading comments on my first post, which helped clear my mind and focus on the next steps. I went through my wife's phone and found nothing. I searched the guy's name from his driver's license and discovered he's a landscaper. She had called for yard cleanup months ago, which led to them meeting. I've driven past his house many times. He seems to live alone, as there's no sign of others at his address. Avoiding my wife after the kids are in bed to limit one-on-one time, I didn't want awkward conversations or to have sex. I slipped up one night after drinking too much, hating myself the next day. I don't believe she has seen him since the day I caught them. I installed a doorbell camera to monitor the street. She didn't comment on it. We continue family activities as usual. I do my best to hide what I know and be a good dad. Recently, she planned a night out with a friend from work. I made an excuse about work, but she arranged for a neighbor to babysit. Debating whether to follow her to see if she's meeting the guy, I dreaded a confrontation. Pretending to go to work, I left after the babysitter arrived, went to a bar for drinks, then drove to the restaurant she mentioned. Seeing her car in the parking lot, I was nervous despite the drinks. Hoping to sneak in unnoticed, I failed miserably as she saw me immediately. She was with her friend, not the guy. We had the expected, "What are you doing here? Thought you were working" conversation. I said work ended early, and I wanted to say hi since we had a babysitter. After a couple of drinks, I went home to relieve the sitter, determined to confront her. I got the kids to bed and waited for her to come home, watching the video again for a reminder. When she arrived, surprised I was still up, she could tell something was wrong. I poured out everything, showing her part of the video. Calling her harsh names, I told her she ruined our lives, filled with anger. She cried, shaking, expressing how terrible she felt. She admitted to cheating twice with him, cutting it off after I caught them, claiming she loved me. She had deleted and blocked him on her phone and social media. She asked me to delete the video, but I refused, feeling the need to hold on to it. She got angry, questioning if I kept it to watch again. It was late, so we agreed to talk the next day, sleeping separately. Over the next few days, things seemed better, with some relief that it was all out in the open. We continued talking, feeling like we were on a path to staying together and moving past this. I made it clear she should never see or talk to that guy again. However, I still struggle to trust her, especially with an upcoming work trip. She suggested installing cameras in the house for my peace of mind, which I might do. I'll be gone for 3 days. Despite things seeming okay and the kids oblivious, I feel like we might slowly get back to normal. I'm ashamed to admit I've watched the video a few times since. I should probably delete it to move on, but I don't know what's wrong with me.